Alright, this is NEG, New Era Gardener, back with part 2. This is the second blue bin that I was using as a wormery for worms that I'm going to be selling. I went through the first one, and if you watched the first video, you saw how I just went through it, sifted it out, took the same bedding that was in here, the organic matter, put it back in with my regular bedding, and mixed it all up gently and put it back into the first blue bin. That particular bin was the one that I had the problem with the flies, with the organic matter. This is the second bin. This is actually the first bin. There was 2 bins, so this is actually the first one. So this one I did feed some solid. Give them some cantaloupe. And these are pretty small worms. A couple of big ones in there. But what I'm gonna do with these little ones is throw them into the wormery bin I actually started with all the baby worms. I mean, they get right into that cantaloupe. Just gonna put this to the side. Same thing here. Yeah, they just bore into it, but they can get into. Once again, here's a nice chunk of beautiful worms. I don't know if you can see them. Fortunately, there's a lot of big worms in there also, mixed in with smaller worms. And I really don't want to put those into the wormery, the bigger worms. But there's some on my hand. Try to separate a little bit of them. Try to get the big worms off. Put them back. But that might be harder than I think, because they're kind of mixed in there in this clump. So you have a little bit of both. So there's big ones, small ones. Try to pull them out gently. Want to really, small ones stick to your hands. Yeah, these are big ones there. I don't want the big ones. I want little ones. I want baby worms. And there's a lot of these little. I mean, there's probably 100 worms in this little bit of stack that I got. But the little ones that stuck to my finger, to my hand, I'm gonna pluck them in. Boy, they just stick to the glove. But I'm just gonna take this little stack that I had and throw it into the bin that I just harvested. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to sift through this, and it looks like already that when I go through this particular bin, I mean, that stuff looks so good. I mean, that's like pure worm castings, and I never like to say pure worm castings. but the sound of that going through the screen sounds like pure worm castings. And when I did the other bucket, that first bit there had quite a bit of sticks, because like I said, these two bins were made from organic matter that I got out of my bins, my tumble bins outside, and my compost bins. So they do have whatever was in those bins. So it does have quite a bit of sticks and probably stones when I clean up around the yard. But this is some real fine matter. I mean, that's what's left. Sticks, worms. Boy, a lot of worms in there. There is biochar in here also, but this stuff is nice and flaky and just loose. I mean, you can see the worms there. I mean, just pulling back, taking back a little. I mean, there's tons of worms in there. Not as much organic matter coming out of this as the other bin, but this bin ran longer, probably before I started thinking of using it to sell worms. It actually was set up probably a month or two prior to the other bin. So yeah, worms, nice worms. Biochar, worms, sticks. Hopefully that's what it looks like. Not going to spend the time right now sifting it. I just want to get this through the bin, get through the bin pretty quick. Kind of show you what we're looking at for worms and product. I mean, this product looks great. Like I said, it's got a lot of biochar in it because the bins were very, very wet because of the organic matter that was in it. And being in outside, some of them were open bins, so if it rains, the material gets wet. When I was watering my garden, of course, you're gonna get those bins wet, so they were pretty moist. So this bin probably has a lot more biochar in it, but the nice part is that's active biochar. have to activate. I mean, worms. Worms. Not as big as I would say these worms aren't as big and robust as the other worms, but there are a lot of big worms in here. So I'm happy with that. Give me 1 second, I am going to sift this one out. So after sifting the material out of that, there's a lot of baby worms in there, and biochar. This one I'm going to dump into my active one here. Only because I need the room. So that'll be another bin there that I'll eventually start. That'll be a good bin to start a new bin. And what I'm thinking also, wow, this bin had a lot of material in it. I mean, you can see the mark up here where the product was, and I'm not even at the bottom yet. And you can see all the worms. And I got, I mean, there's worms galore. So nice. This bin turned out just as good as the other one, but there are a lot of bigger worms at the bottom. So I'm happy with that. Oh man. I could do so many things. There's so many worms in here. I know one of the guys at work, yeah, see these guys, I have to say there's something about the biochar that they like. There's a lot of biochar here at the bottom because of the amount of moisture that was in this bin, just like the last bin. And they really are hanging out down the bottom there. So there is definitely something about the biochar that they love. So these particular worms, they're going to go right back into the new bin. The bin that I actually did before. And they're just going to go right back into that bin. I mean, those are nice size worms. Let me get some of the dirt off. Those are still nice size worms. Yeah, So, but like I was saying, I got one of the guys at work. He's into gardening also, and he's looking for worms to add into his compost bin when the spring comes around. And we were just talking about it, the biochar, the worms, and just kind of letting them know about when you're doing your compost that you already have tons of worms in there. I mean, those are worms. Those are worms. There are tons of worms. So, like I said, he kept telling me, keep those worms alive for me for another couple of months, so that I could get some worms from you for my compost bins. And you know, like I told him, they're alive, and as you can see, they're alive, and there's lots of worms in there. So when he's ready to do his garden, he'll get some lively worms for his garden. So, for his compost bins, and start his garden. I mean, just sifting out the compost out of that's biochar in there. I mean, there's a lot of worms in there. I mean, this bin was, I almost want to say this bin was healthier in the amount of worms that's in there than compared to the other bin. The other bin had bigger worms, but this bin, as you can see, I'm coming down to the bottom. This bin is a much more healthier. I mean, look at those worms. Those are nice, healthy worms. They were in the corner. Those are nice, healthy worms. Very happy with that. Just gonna dig them out around the corners. Yeah, see? This bin is just healthier with worms, more worms. Which to me means, you know, because it was a bin that was started sooner, it populated itself so much more than the other bin. So, very nice, very nicely. I'm very happy with that, with the production of this bin. But like I said, this bin, I'm going to take this bin out of commission. Some tape. This was a bin that was damaged, and just want to get all those little babies out of there. So it's a very good, healthy bin. Alright, so I'm coming up to the end of this. Like I said, This is a bin conversion. I'm going to convert this bin into one bin. I'm going to convert this bin into one bin. One of the other bins, and make one bin out of two, and let it go from there. And I mean, very good. Very happy with those worms. All right. So, a couple of stragglers. So this is after screening, and this is all I got left as far as what was in there, as far as any organic matter. There's no organic matter in there except for the sticks and twigs that didn't break down. The sticks would take a long time to break down. There's a lot of biochar in here, which is not a problem. It just becomes active biochar. But what I think I'm going to do, I'm not worried about how many worms are in here, because this is going to be bins I'm going to use for sale. So I'm not really worried about that. But if I turn this over, there's plenty of worms. Plenty of worms. Plenty. I'm not shy on worms here. So I'm just gonna mix it back in, not even taking out anything. I was going to separate all this biochar, the sticks, and just put pure worms in there. But you know what? It sticks. It's biochar. That's only going to continue to get more and more activated. So I'm not really going to worry about it. I'm just going to stick it back in and watch the bin continue to multiply. So, all right, this is the second bin number 2 from the for sale worms wormery. So thanks for watching, and this is what you get from healthy bins. You get worms, worms, worms. So very happy with that, with the amount of worms that came out of that. Nice size worms. Nice size worms. All right, thank you. This once again is NEG, New Era Gardener, and enjoy the rest of your day.